I've got a couple of gigs coming up. A few heavyweight Australian pop artists. We've got Troye Sivan and Chase Atlantic. Brought up a really interesting question. Does the Australian music scene only foster certain genres of music? But Troye Sivan's touring with Charlie XCX overseas right now, selling out arenas everywhere. Chase Atlantic playing arenas in America, but both these artists are only playing the river stage. Do Australian fans have a subconscious disliking for pop because Triple J fostered indie and experimental music for so long?
Short answer, no.
Oh, well.
Moving on. I know where you're coming from. Yes, I agree with you that those types of music were not necessarily what Triple J would have played 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Having said that, Kylie Minogue has got hottest 100 spots. In a way, Triple J lost its pop edge a bit in the like late 90s, early 2000s. That was when, and I've said this before on the show, like other Australian media were picking up the baton from the bands that Triple J created. I think the problem is that Australian bigger media organizations have stopped picking up the artists that Triple J are playing. The last probably artist that made the jump from Triple J to mainstream radio probably was Tones and I, to be honest with you. Go back earlier, you had your Silverchairs, you had your Grinspoons, you had your Powderfingers, you had your Regurgitators, all those kind of bands. Artists like Troye Sivan, you don't hear on the radio. So I'm not saying this is a generalization of the whole thing, but I feel like you hear them a lot less. There's a perception that Australian artists on Australian radio have to be like very middle of the road. Guy Sebastian, Amy Shark, Dean Lewis, who are great. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike any of those artists, but they're very like
they got to appeal to a broader demographic.
Your twinks that listen to Troye Sivan or like, your alternative pop kids that are like have fingerless gloves that are listening to Chase Atlantic. They're not listening to your Novas or your Hits or your Kisses. Like
True. It seems like Australian artists are just, if they're in those little niches of genres, they're just going, oh, Australia's going to be too hard. I'm just going to nick off overseas.
If you're in a band that's starting, you're playing music that isn't necessarily already well represented in Australia, you're probably going to go overseas because you're looking for a market that may not, or is very small here. It's kind of chicken and egg in that sense. The scene's not here, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And then we sit here and be like, there's no scene here because that artist left. How many times have Triple J played an artist that's like pop-ish? Yeah. I'm not talking about Beyonce. If Triple J were to play Troye Sivan, people would be like, why is Triple J supporting Troye Sivan? He doesn't need it.
Then he comes to Australia and is playing a 4,000 capacity venue when overseas he's playing 10, 15,000 people venues.
He's playing the river stage where Ballpark Music played, and if Ballpark Music was on Triple J, you'd be like, cool, sweet. We do it to ourselves where at the same time we go, all these artists have to go overseas to be successful. And then as soon as a Triple J tries to broaden the horizon, we're like, what happened? You used to be cool. You used to play fucking Powderfinger. You used to play Regurgitate. You used to play Tool.
Tall poppy syndrome a bit. I hate tall poppy syndrome in Australia. I'm a sucker for it. Catch myself out sometimes. I'm like, don't hate on them just because they're doing something cool. Like, the most hate comes in the trial period.
The 30-day free trial.
Yeah. Troye Sivan, as he was blowing up, he probably copped, you're too pop for Australia, mate. Like,
yeah.
He goes over, blows up. How to Stay With You. That's the name of the album, isn't it? No, it's not. What's the name of the album? The new one. Something to Give Each Other. Huge. Like, massive. And you and I have both, like, unanimously agreed that album slaps.
Oh, it's
like,
great.
It is so
fantastic.
Good. Now everyone's like, oh, I love Troye Sivan. Like, he's awesome. Like, and I'm one of those people. I'm not here on a high horse. But I do feel like Australians give people shit. And then once they blow up, they're like, oh, man, like, I always believed in you, hey.
We always talk about this. Don't hate something just because you don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for you. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's like shit.
Not a reflection of the artist being bad.
Yeah.
They're probably nailing that sound in their niche. And I've tried really hard to look at it objectively. This isn't the artist. I just don't like that sound. It doesn't trigger the brain chemicals that make me go, shit, that song's awesome. It's hard. And especially in social settings because it's so easy to just jump on and...
Just a bandwagon.
But music is subjective. Like, you've just got to accept that.
Yeah.
And if there's heaps of bands you listen to that I don't, and vice versa. Like, but I don't think your bands are shit. I just think your taste is shit.